alarm holes there at US 50 and Paoli Pike when it came through there. This is the worst of it. Let me put a stop here on the radar. And again, because this is where it is tracking right along US 42. Right there is the notch. That's what we need to watch out for your biggest problems when it comes to any type of tornado that can be dropped quickly out of this scenario. You actually have two areas. One just north of Goshen, and there's actually a tail portion here on the southern side of Prospect I've been watching too. There's been a brief rotating signal there that we're watching, but this is the main one. It's going to track right along the river south of Hibernia and then right into Oldham itself and just north of LaGrange. Looks like it's staying just north, from what I can tell, of the I-71 corridor area. All right, let's get into some of the wind fields here. And this is where, again, we're watching for some of the stronger winds. Boy, it's still very pronounced. I mean, this is where you've got the general circulation. They just adjusted the warning, and it looks like the area that canceled was the Louisville portion of it, the Jefferson County, Kentucky. That part has been cleared. So Louisville, for this issue of this rotating section, Louisville is cleared out of that warning now. So now we're just focused on the southeast side here of Clark, and as you get into Oldham County, that is the main focal point that we're watching as the storm moves off to the north and east, still at a pretty good clip. The warning officially is out for another 15 minutes, it looks like, that we'll have that warning out for the area there. All right, let's get into at least what we look at for any type of debris that could be picked up. This signal, got a few hints here and there of some of that, but it's a kind of a messy look because so much heavy rain and hail can contaminate some of this as well. Ryan, can we take let's take SkyTrack. Oh, there we go. You guys have got to punch in.
Yeah, look at that.
This is downtown. Well, we can hear it right now in downtown. Here's the thing. Even if you're not under a warning, these heavy rain events, these downburst events of very torrential rainfall, even with some hail times, can still knock out the power and cause some big time delays. So even if you're not under a warning, this image here is the city of Louisville.
And you should see both bridges, the Big Four and the Kennedy there, and you can't see either of them in that photo or that video there.
Yeah, and I know we've technically are still in a drought, but when you get into a rain like this, guys, it's a mess. It just has nowhere to go but runoff onto the roadway, and hydroplaning is a big problem. So please be careful traveling. A lot of accidents, I'm sure, this afternoon with this kind of a setup. All right, here's the storm again, moving right along 42. So far, staying just north of that area of I-71. Let me try to animate this. Now, this may play out a little further back to the west of where it was, but you get the idea that the motion on it is northeast, not so much due east at the moment. Here's Dipleytown on the southern side of that at the moment. We'll see if that little cell may try to disrupt it. If it tries to get ingested, we'll see if that can cause some problems there and try to shake things up with that circulation. We'll see as it moves off to the north and to the east there, Ryan.
Yeah, I just want to go over some timing real quick for folks downstream here. Greenhaven, this moves into your area 2:07 p.m. Campbellsburg. I know you folks out in Henry are not under a warning at this time, but this storm is moving in your direction here, and you've got till about 2:37 p.m. until that arrives. Pendleton 2:25, LaGrange about 10 minutes earlier, 2:15. So folks in northern Oldham County, of course, you're under the warning right now, but we're keeping an eye on folks in Trimble County and Henry County downstream, and of course watching for our neighbors in Clark County, Indiana, right along the Ohio River, Brian, where that couplet's been.
Yeah, exactly. And this constant regeneration on the back end is something that's a little odd. This is very classic of almost a tropical environment too, by the way, when you started getting the repeated rounds of rain. Even though you've had one round come through, I know a lot of you are kind of meteorologists in training knowing that usually that rain cold air takes care of that, right? Not necessarily in this case. There's so much wind energy aloft and a lot of moisture being at play that they just constantly repeat themselves over and over again. This is where we're going to run into some flash flooding. This tells me down here to the south, you see this little bit of green near the Louisville Zoo and near the airport. That tells me this has produced an outflow of wind, probably about 30 or so miles per hour. Airport so far measuring 20, but that outflow of wind didn't go very far, just only to the Waterston and the airport, it looks like, maybe where it stalls. So these should weaken over the next few moments, but we may get new development in eastern Jefferson County later on. We'll see if that indeed is the case, but just kind of a heads up for those of you in the core of the city wondering what's tracking there with that heavy rain. All right, this is our main show. Tornado warning out for another, well, a little more than 10 minutes, tracking off to the east. Now the core of it right there over the Oldham County area. And we've been monitoring carefully just to see if we could see a sign of any kind of weakening And at the very least, this is going to have a strong push of wind with it. But there is still that possibility that there is still a rotation to where you can get a stronger push of wind that's rotating through the area. We haven't not seen that signal be as strong. On the rotating side, this is certainly much more of a straight line wind signal right now. We'll see if that holds or not. But boy, that is moving quickly to the north and east. In fact, let me see if I can get a little closer to that.
It's moving at about 30 miles per hour north and east, by the way.
Well, that's not as fast as I thought these were moving in. These are actually relatively slow, which that's a problem in itself. That's going to lead to heavy rain.
Yeah, and at this point, Brian, we were looking at the back building of these storms.
Yeah.
We're not seeing any other rotation on the storms that are sort of downstream of these, now moving into northwest Jefferson County near the Portland area. So it's kind of just a one-shot deal right now with the rotation of these storms, which is the tornado warning we're covering.
Yeah, and it looks like it was probably some type of collision of boundaries. Yep. We don't know the exact setup, but we have to go back and look. But it's not, as Ryan mentioned several times, this is not a tornado environment, but you can get these small little features that I'm telling you, weather models just never going to catch that. But radars can, and they can certainly detect when that potential is there. And this is one of those scenarios where we are certainly watching it. All right. Let's see, they're going to issue another tornado warning. Looks like
Henry and Trimble. Yeah, they're going to go a tad further south and east, they say here.
Okay, well, we're going
to be on the air for a bit.
We're going to widen this view out. It's still, I mean, it's relatively a broad mesocyclone here, not to get overly technical, but certainly it's the lower layers of that scan as it gets into what could be a wall cloud. That's where problems start to pop in. Okay, let me zoom in on that particular spot, because again, right now, that is the only show. There's nothing else severe that is happening in wave country. The other storms we had to the south and east have now all moved out of the area. This is the main show. So this new warning, which will be coming out here soon, we put on the radar, is going to include likely Henry County, and was it Trimble?
Yeah, Henry and Trimble is what they're eyeing at this point. They're giving it another scan before they make that final decision.
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, it looks like the scan's probably so it doesn't look like it's going to improve a whole lot from what I can see here, but we'll see what happens in the next few moments. Because again, that you can almost see it almost looks like a little puzzle piece, if you will, that we're tracking. It looks like a weird object here, the darker reds, which you need to focus on, almost like an upside down letter L is one way we can look at that, right? But this is the area we're watching that if we're going to get any type of brief trail touchdown, which, to be clear, I've yet to see anything indicating that. Everything's been up above the tree line, but we had the trees, or at least the power lines, that came down, and the spots there on 150 and Paoli Pike and DeFloyd County, that is where it really started to show up. So it may at one point have done that, but I'm not saying it still is the case right now. But that tells me it certainly has the potential to do that if it's done at once. So we'll need to watch it as it moves to the north and east at about 30 to 35 miles per hour. So LaGrange, this is just going to be just north of you, and really just along the Bedford line, it looks to be the spot. This morning, I think it's until 6 more minutes, I believe.
2:15 is on that.
Okay, on the older one. So they'll be able to expire that one here soon, and hopefully we'll have a good idea of what they're going to do off to the east.
A couple things, Brian. Sure. If my right ear is working here, I think I can hear tornado sirens outside of our station here. Just to be clear, Jefferson County, yes, you can hear that according to the folks back in the booth. Thank you for that. Yeah. Just to be clear, Jefferson County is not under a tornado warning right now. That has been allowed to expire. They've trimmed it back. So it's just right now Clark, in the very southeastern part of Clark here, and Oldham counties. I also wanted to share with you, too, that I'm kind of looking up at different levels of the storm, and there's the new tornado warning. Let's go to Brian Good now.
Yeah, I was going to mention, too, anytime they drop off a warning like they did, they dropped off the part of Louisville, that message doesn't always get to the siren, so the sirens usually stay active. So that's usually an oddity that we see often there. All right. Okay, tornado warning. This is the one that we were talking about that is going to be out for the Trimble and Hardin County area. Let's see if I
just clicked it. There
Thank you. I'm a little short. This warning's out until the bottom of the hour. Will include Pendleton, Campbellsburg area, heading toward Newcastle, Smithfield. I mean, it's not officially in it, but you're close. You will certainly get grazed by it. It's certainly, if you are more south than you are north, the odds are a little more in your favor because of that flow being more northeast. It's unlikely you're going to get much of a southward jog here, unless this thing really goes bonkers and spins wild, and then it will make a little more of a turn. But the fact that it hasn't done that tells us that it's likely not on the ground doing that. So that's another good sign. But still, got to be ready for it. So if you're just now tuning in, it's 2:08 on this Tuesday afternoon. We have a severe thunderstorm watch out until 8 o'clock for much of the area. We've had a couple of cells that have produced some wind damage, but the main one we're watching is one that has scooted right across the Louisville metro, now heading into Oldham and Henry counties, as well as southern Trimble, and continues the tornado warning until the bottom of the hour. That's our main storyline for the next hour especially, is going to be this cell and how it progresses across northern Kentucky in the I-71 corridor. So anywhere along that path, you need to make sure that you have already gotten into your safe spot and seeking shelter. That's the key thing on that, making sure that you are getting away from the exterior walls of a home. Get away from glass, flying debris. Put your shoes on as well. That is always important because you never know if you were to get glass or anything outside, you don't be walking around barefoot there, right? You see that flashing there, and that's just updates that are happening to the warnings as they're getting different data that is coming in. So there's nothing new that has been issued, but it's still this red polygon is the area we got to really focus in on for the problems when it comes to any type of wind damage. Anything else coming in, Ryan, from especially social? I know you may not be able to check right now, but we had a lot of folks that were on because we've been in there streaming that were just talking about, oh, these clouds are just so ominous. I mean, everyone is fully aware that something is about to happen, but now it's hitting the spot that people are getting really nervous about, is that Oldham County area along the Ohio River.
Yeah, right now, one thing that has happened, at least here in Louisville, is that the tornado sirens have stopped, which is good. So just wanted to reiterate here that Louisville is currently not under any sort of tornado threat at this time. This is the only tornado warning cluster that we have, are these two right here, stretching all the way into the Campbellsburg and US 421 corridor, including Newcastle. At this time, I'm on our Wave Weather Facebook page right now, where we are streaming live. So just a reminder, Wave Weather now is the place to be to get our live streaming, because I know sometimes you don't have a TV in that basement or that storm shelter, so your phone or your tablet device is going to be really handy here. Right now, just a lot of folks on social media talking about the sirens going off in LaGrange. Charlestown still has sirens going off. So that's kind of the discussion right now. No reports of damage out of this particular storm at this point, which, Brian, is not surprising given what we've seen on the velocity. This just isn't all there at this point.
Yeah, and even the most recent scan that updated while you were talking, I'm not seeing as much a pronounce of the outbound as it did earlier. So I think this is starting to weaken just a tad. It doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. I'm hoping it will just evolve into just a straight line wind event to take the tornado talk out of discussion, because I know the tornado talk gets all the hype, but you got to keep in mind these downburst straight line winds cause us more issues around here, guys. So wind is wind. It's just a matter of which way it turns, right, and speed on it. So it looks like Greenhaven itself, right along US 42, that's where that strong push of wind, if it's still causing any problems, that's where it's going to be as it journeys off to the east and to the northeast at about 30 miles per hour. Let me get you back to the radar view, and I'll take you into different parts of the Louisville area too for those that are tuning in. We're still monitoring the rest of this line, trying to reconnect to the south and west. Here is that outflow boundary that we talked about earlier that pushed out of Indiana. Well, look what it's done. It's caused a new cell to develop right over the highlands that is formed. So we'll have to watch that. Anytime you get new development right on the edge of an outflow like that, you can get some severe potential, especially in downburst winds. That is possible. So that would stretch right along the Malls area through the highlands, Bardstown Road. We'll watch and see how tall this can get and whether or not it could trigger an additional warning later. Otherwise, the other warning that was out for Floyd County, that cell is really weakened, but it's moving right over the same spot as the first one did. So really the biggest hazard out of this one looks to be heavy rain and ponding of water and maybe some flash flooding. We continue to build to the south and west. You can still see some new development back, say, around Laconia. You get all the way down into Meade County and Breckenridge County, still some development that can be found there as well, but nothing that looks anything like what we've got going on with these cells, of course, that are moving right along the Ohio River. But boy, those signals are really there when it crossed into Floyd County, that there was some rotation going on. Watching this band too that's trying to get together, the modeling did pick up on this, to be honest, for this evening, that this would take off as well and become a severe weather player. I haven't seen that yet, but if you are around Hart County, all the way into, say, Greene and Taylor, even into Marion County. Just a heads up, this is a zone that can turn severe as well. Even though you've had one storm come by with some wind damage, had that warning with it. It is now weakened. It's just moved toward the Lexington metro, but these additional ones could easily become severe here soon this afternoon. So this is going to be a long afternoon of tracking showers and storms. But no doubt, the amount of lightning, more than 200 lightning strikes taking place right now with that particular cell that is located there into Clark County and Oldham County. A tremendous amount of lightning right now. So this is very loud as it moves off to the east rapidly now. So it looks like it's really out of Clark. Clark County is looking better and better. And it's really not just the very far eastern side of Oldham County that we're talking about. If it's still even trying to do anything, this is the area to watch, as it now will influence 71 for the first time, because 71 turns a little more here into Henry. So if there's any chance that it could cause maybe some rotation there, that's a spot to watch. Let's take a gander and see if that's still the case as it moves on by. Still got a push of wind, but again, it's not as strong of a signature of a rotating storm as what we had even earlier. It still looks like really the front end of the wind. This is still, though, I would say roughly a 50-mile-per-hour wind that could come out of that. So it could still knock some trees down and knock out the power as it tracks north and east. So Pendleton, get ready. It's coming your way. At the very least, your lights could flicker. So just make sure you got all your devices plugged in just in case. Stay in your safe spot. You're not clear yet in Oldham. You're not clear into Trimble County or into Henry County. So stay in your safe spots until we determine everything has indeed weakened enough. There's no cause about it powering back up or anything like that. And right now, that does not look to be the case as it moves off to the north and to the east. All right, Chief Meteorologist Kevin Harnett is watching things as well. And Kevin, these it's been a while since we've had to do this and cover these active storms, but it just goes to show you can switch weather patterns fast. But we got to remember always our rules of safety, no matter what time of year it is.
Well, and I'll tell you, we're in a high shear environment here, so we're seeing that play out with this rotation. The good news is the storm that we're tracking across parts of Clark County and Oldham County, seeing that rotation subside. You're looking at the imping damage reports, which we have none at this point. That's certainly some good news. I'll show you the radar view on a wider scale, and then we'll drill back down into it. Brian's been pointing it out, but just going through some of the latest information, the rotation is coming down again. That doesn't mean we can't see it sort of tighten back up or even produce those straight line winds that we've been talking about. But that is the only warning that we have. The tornado warning, severe thunderstorm warning, essentially for the same area. You're looking at that across parts of Oldham County, pushing past LaGrange, moving toward Henry County, Pendleton. As Brian mentioned, lights may flicker. It's possible because that is where that pocket of wind is moving, just north of LaGrange. Brian can better show that in the key. And Brian, while you're doing that, let's just have a little discussion here on what we're seeing unfold today with this front nearby. This boundary has been with us for a couple of days, bringing needed rain, but it also has a lot of wind energy to work with.
It does. And that's something that we have not had much of as well, especially above our heads. It's been very much the doldrums of summer, right? A lot of air quality alerts. Nothing's been moving in our air. So this is the first time we've tried to shake the air up, especially above our head. And when that happens, with all that moisture it's been trying to pump into the area today, this is what you get. You get a combination of the two, and you end up with a round of showers and storms that can produce severe weather. And Kevin, I'm seeing here from the looks like from New Albany Fire. I think they've moved all the students there into shelter
over in Clark County.
In Clark County, which is a good point. It's 217, so some schools probably have to make that decision. I'm assuming it's going to be school by school more than likely rather than district. So don't overwhelm them. Let them enact their safety procedures as necessary, and just exercise caution on the buses probably running just a bit behind here today.
Well, and that's the question they're asking is, has it moved out of the area? Is it okay to come out of shelter? And in fact, when you look at Clark County, the bulk of that storm is out of your area, squarely moving across northern Oldham County into Henry County at this point. So we have had no reports of damage coming in. That's the good news. But winds have certainly been estimated as high as 60 miles an hour and perhaps even stronger in some places. So just because we don't have the reports yet doesn't mean there hasn't been some damage, especially in some of those rural areas, Brian.
Yeah, the only one we got was the poles that were knocked down right when we first saw the signal in Corydon, not far from between Corydon and the Lee Hamilton. That is where this started to show problems initially. But Kevin's right. We haven't heard anything since then. Now, the reports like this do get delayed. So be patient with us as we continue. Our newsroom's working hard to try to confirm all that. Watching the wind flow, we are still getting at least strong, at least straight line winds pushing into the Pendleton area. So you're likely going to experience wind gusts. I don't know if it'll get up to the severe limits at 60, but it may be up there to certainly be noticeable and could knock a few of the limbs, especially the limbs that may be weak from drought stress as of late, or have already started to lose some of the leaves that may be a little bit more on the weaker side. So smaller limbs, certainly possible. But 71, be careful, because we saw when we were in there live streaming earlier, the impact on traffic. The Lee Hamilton was just hardly anybody out there, just raining so incredibly hard. That is certainly going to do a number on the damage into 71. And Kevin, it looks like it's trying to tick back up again. So I'm watching it there on the western tip. There into Pendleton area and right across eastern Oldham County. It's a slight uptick, but it's certainly not going the way we wanted it to go as far as weakening. So that's the reason why I still got to watch it. I mean, this environment just ahead of it is we got dew points in the upper 60s to near 70 degrees. Not much action has really happened here, so it's relatively untapped. So that could still allow for at least damaging wind potential as it moves off to the east. And that's like another warning. This is going to be down to the south for that other cluster we were talking about that could be a problem for the new development that kind of repeated the same path as the one that came through Marion and into Washington County, Kentucky. Well, here's the new development now on that tail. This could be one of additional storms that could become strong in southern Kentucky this evening. But this one is a severe thunderstorm warning, but it also has a tornado tag that is on it. So again, tornado possible for Greene, Marion, and Taylor for this one down to the south. Let me check out the wind field on that as we're monitoring the field. It's very, very close to that very southwest side. Let me zoom in a little closer on that. I mean, it's right on the western tip of Greene County, but this is a good warning from the Weather Service to catch this early, because this is the first sign as the radar tries to help you as a tool. They just need to watch it. Doesn't mean a tornado's on the ground. It just means that the groundwork has been done by the thunderstorm that it can produce one. So we just need to be mindful of that as it moves right along 88 and it's heading right into Greensburg if it can hold together. They expect at least some gusty winds out of that, but anything severe, that's something we'll have to just take it by hour as the storm moves on by the area. But no doubt, get in your safe spot, stay away from windows. Same rules apply, even with a severe thunderstorm warning there because of a tornado possible tag on that one that will likely move right into Taylor County up next in about 30 minutes. Ryan Hoke, stand by. Ryan, what you got for us?
Oldham County Emergency Management, they say they've had no damage reports just yet, but it's still early in the game. We have had, however, reported just in here on MPing, which is an app you can download for your phone and upload damage reports to, a report in eastern parts of Oldham County here, just north and east of what looks to be LaGrange there on I-71, and that would be kind of a 2 out of 5 report there, meaning tree limbs possibly snapped. Nothing catastrophic or anything like that, but at least one report of some storm damage in a place where you certainly could have it. You can see that location right now underneath some of those thunderstorms. So we'll continue to monitor for damage reports. Our newsroom is working on that.
All right, thanks, Ryan. That is a good tool to have. MP, whenever we get those reports, gives us an idea of the type of damage and placement more than anything. So that, again, is about where we saw that rotating cell, at least the wind field on that in eastern Oldham County had a bit of an uptick right in that point, eastern Oldham County into Henry County. All right, new severe thunderstorm warning is out, so they're going to replace this warning here, the tornado warning, with a severe thunderstorm warning. That is a good sign. Doesn't mean there can't be another upgrade later, but at the moment, this is a promising signal to go with just a severe thunderstorm warning in advance of that cell. So this will take over for the tornado warning that will then expire over the Campbellsburg area, Newcastle here soon. You'll have a severe thunderstorm warning that will stay out for about an extra 15 minutes to account for its passage as it moves on by. They still kept the trail tag on that as a possibility as it moves on by, but at the moment we're still waiting to see if we're going to get any reports yet. Not that we want any, but sometimes these reports can be delayed and we don't want to make sure to downplay the system too much and get reports showing some damage there. So we want to try to keep up with those reports as they come through. Pendleton, right there. That's where that strong push of wind continues to be, right along I-71, Kevin Harden.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was zoomed into there, just south of Sligo. That's going to move you right over US 146 there. So Pendleton is in the heart of that wind. You can see that's approaching I-71. So a lot of cars up and down 71 I-71, feeling the effects of that push of wind and, of course, the very heavy rain, which has slowed traffic around the area. You're looking at the velocity. These are winds. Oftentimes, if we were looking at the tornadic signature on this, it would be green and red together toward and away from the radar. But again, the rotation has eased, but the pocket of wind still exists. And that's, again, why the severe thunderstorm warning is replacing the tornado warning, technically in place until 2:30. So that warning will continue. But as you can see on a wider view, it extends out past the Campbellsburg area as a severe thunderstorm warning. When we look at the velocity and replace that with reflectivity, you're going to notice on the radar view that we do have some very heavy rain in clusters across the viewing area. We've been talking about the tornado warning up across parts of Henry County, southern parts of Trimble County. That is where we have obviously very heavy rain and even the potential for some small hail. We did have hail reports along US 42, not too far from Old Sligo Road. And again, we can put the hail tracker on here and just give an indication that we're still seeing some of that. Now, the hail product always lags behind, so at this point it would be just past I-71, but still reporting upwards of P to possibly nickel-size hail with this as it moves past. And we're starting to get a few power outages as well. Ryan's standing by with those.
Yeah, I did want to point out here that Floyd County, Indiana now has about 3% of customers without power. That's over 1,500 customers. We've had a report there on 150 of a traffic light that's out. The power's out in that area, a little closer to 64 there. And of course, we've got Washington County, Kentucky, too, reporting at about 5% without power. We're looking at some of those numbers. We'll continue to monitor those as they come in. Sometimes these are lagging behind 10 to 15 minutes, so we'll keep checking back, guys.
All right, Ryan, thank you. We got one report of a tree down now into the Goshen Lane area. Again, that's just one report out of Oldham County, that tree being knocked down. We'll see what happens with this passing over the Pendleton area of that strong push of wind and see how that maintains itself as it moves off to the east at about 30 to 35 miles per hour. It seems to be the main push that we're looking at as it moves on by. And again, this is the same one that likely knocked down some of the trees and power line poles there very close to Lee Hamilton and Paoli Pike, Highway 150 zone. Ryan just mentioned that the power was out in that particular spot too. So I think the wind was quite strong there based on the radar at that time. That led to really, I guess, the chaos of this particular cell because it maintained all across Clark County and at times tried to tighten up to produce a possible tornado, then went back to a weaker rotation, still producing strong winds, but a general broad rotation. That's where we are right now at 2:25 this afternoon. We're still in that setup. Very broad rotation, but strong wind field on the leading edge of that could still knock down some trees as it moves into the east coming up here in the next few moments. And it looks like the Weather Service is going to keep that idea of going with that severe thunderstorm warning that we talked about, Kevin. That'll get us until about 45 minutes after the hour. I got a feeling we're going to get some flood advisories too that may start getting issued. So just another cautionary statement there for those about to head out of work or leave the office. If you're watching on streaming, you're about to drive into probably a long ride home today.
Yeah, the rain is coming down in buckets in places while the sun is shining in others. When we look at the tornado warning, technically it's expiring in just about 3 minutes. You look at the map behind me, you can see we have the one tornado warning with a number of severe thunderstorm warnings that will replace it as it moves closer to southern parts of Carroll County. And to the south, that warning, notice the black outline on that warning. Let me show you a little closer view of what that looks like because it's important to know what our mapping looks like. That black outline is an indicator for folks at home that a tornado is possible with that storm. So when we look at the sort of threats with that storm, you'll see tornado possible, wind speed 60 miles an hour. The number of people affected by this lone thunderstorm warning is over 25,000 people. Now, that's a severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible for Greene, Marion, and Taylor. And you say, well, why is it not a tornado warning if a tornado is possible? The idea behind that is that it's severe thunderstorm warning, winds the main threat, but there's enough rotation in the atmosphere that we could spin up a minor tornado. And for that reason, even though we're not seeing that, and I can show you what that rotation looks like, we're not seeing that couplet show up. So it's more of a push of wind as opposed to the couplet. But that doesn't mean, much like we saw earlier today, that this warning would not go to a tornado warning, Brian, and sometimes that can happen. And it really, we don't always like to think of one being more important than the other. When we're dealing with a day like today, the straight line winds themselves can sometimes cause more damage than these minor tornadoes that could touch down.
Yeah, they cover more real estate. They cause more problems with power outages and more issues for power crews than tornadoes do because they affect such larger portions of the grid. So they certainly have their thorn as they move on by the area. That went down to the south, by the way, that Kevin was showing you in Greene County. There's not a lot of rain on the southern side of that, so it should be for spotters there. They'll be able to see fairly easily any type of rotation with that or a wall cloud that forms. So I'm fairly confident the spotter team is amazing in that area. So I got a feeling they'll be able to pick that out if anything develops there. So we'll monitor that. Unlike the one here that's been along the river, it's had a lot of heavy rain really surrounding it as it moved along there along the Ohio River, producing just blinding rainfall at times as it moved through wave country. All right, let me get you into a radar view and then show you again how this is constantly training itself in the southwest to northeast fashion. I wish this would just fade away immediately after you get a storm, but this is a very unique setup. That is not going to happen with this kind of ordeal. This is a unstable setup that is being driven by this large low pressure. Can't even see it. It's just off the screen, over that way, back toward Illinois. But the flow is coming in from the southwest, and it is stalled. It's one of the other reasons why Tropical Storm Helene is getting its act together now in the Gulf of Mexico. It's got a chance to breathe because the weather pattern is stuck. Bad news for us is that it's stuck with this right now, where we get this repeated round of showers and storms. Not all of them are going to be severe, but you can see that the first few do tend to go severe because they're taking advantage of the very warm setup here today that we're monitoring. But the others may not get to that level, but boy, they can be just as annoying, being constantly hit with heavy rain, lightning, thunder, period of gusty winds, and really slowing travel down across southern Indiana and central Kentucky. And that's why the severe thunderstorm watch will stay out until the 8 o'clock hour. So we'll continue to watch that. Kevin, I know you're watching that wind field carefully right there on 71. It seems to be on that southeast side of where we've had that strong wind field. It has really just been inching along to get to the other side of 71, while the other section of the storm has been racing to the northeast. That side is moving much slower.
Yeah, and again, when we look at the shear and the velocity inside of this storm, we can measure that by the radar. It's not always exactly what's happening at the ground. Sometimes we wind up seeing those wind gusts completely translated down to the ground. But you can see the radar is measuring 49 miles per hour in this latest scan. This is just south of Campbellsburg. This is going to take it as it moves, again, sort of crawls to the east, not far from Lacey, along 193. So if you're in that area, again, not rotating as much as it was, but we are seeing strong winds within that zone. That would take it not only along 193, but over toward Delville, Drennan Springs, and eventually perhaps as far north as Port Royal. But just south of the Campbellsburg area is the sort of zone in focus right now. Ryan, what do you have?
Yeah, just in from our newsroom here, a couple of notes about Carroll County, by the way. Carroll County students are sheltering in place at this time. Imagining the verbiage they're using here says that some sort of sirens have been activated by Carroll County Emergency Management Agency, and school dismissal is delayed until after the storms pass. The exact time of dismissal, again, this is Carroll County, Kentucky we're talking about, is unknown at this time. That comes directly from the Carroll County schools there. And I did want to also point out, we've got one of these 4 out of 5 damage indicators here reported on MPING. This is just north of Watson here, off the Lee Hamilton. We've been talking about that area that has happened within the last little bit here. And now 2 damage reports that are kind of a 2 out of 5 tree limbs sort of snap sort of situation now in eastern parts of Oldham County there. So a couple updates from our friends, of course, in Clark, Oldham, and Carroll counties, guys.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. I'm hoping that's the only reports we get are just some limbs getting knocked down, some tree damage here and there. That's what I'm hoping for as the storms move on by. But again, those reports do tend to be quite delayed in getting into the newsroom there. All right. There's the that cell. The tornado warning has expired officially, so we're done with that. All we have is really 2 sections that we're monitoring for severe weather. One is located now into the northeast side of Henry County, moving into Carroll County. So they're staying in place for a good reason. I mean, it's a got a nice little kick to it. The storm does. And then we got the southern one that is just trying to develop. Sometimes we call these like a tail end Charlie type of scenario where the very bottom end appendage can rotate. So we're watching that carefully for those of you in Greensburg as it moves into Taylor and perhaps eventually into Marion County. But notice we have more developing as you head down toward Bowling Green, back into West Kentucky. So we will likely get additional development that will feed, and some of those are even severe around Nashville. Those will continue to feed more northeast. I still think this zone here is more the zone to watch. The zone that is a little closer to the Ohio River, including Louisville, is a little more iffy on how much activity that could get up to severe limits will be between now and the rest of the evening. It's not zero, but it's certainly a bit higher in that particular zone near and south of the Parkways area. But that strong wind gust, I think we have a mesonet that is near where Kevin was pointing to in Campbellsburg. I believe we did. I'm not sure if it's one of the newer ones or not, but maybe some of those gauges may be able to capture some of that stronger wind push. All right, there's that new warning. This is going to be out for the Carroll County area. This is a kind of an adjustment and kind of a slight extension there to cover that cell as it moves on by. All right. And Kevin's got up the Carroll County site. This is located just ahead of the storm. These are snapshots that are coming out. So that's the cell that we're looking at. Kevin's got an image of behind him, Kevin.
Yeah, we're picking out as many cameras as we can see, and while it's not exactly live, it's captured within the last few minutes, and you can see that the skies are far darker as we look just down to the south. So that is that storm that's sort of working its way to the east and northeast, but that again, still seeing some breaks in the clouds, and it's the breaks that we've seen today that have allowed some energy into the atmosphere that's allowed these storms to well up this afternoon and be on the severe side. So again, not the best timing with traffic, especially from the schools, some holding children in the tornado safe places until the warnings have expired, which they all have at this point. And Carroll County, as we're looking at the Carroll County Mesonet cam, says they've delayed the dismissal, as Ryan mentioned, until after this storm passes, which again is going to be just a little bit more time when you look at the radar view.
All right, thanks, Kevin. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're coming up. It's 2:35. We do have the extreme edges here at Wave Country. We're watching the warnings right into areas of eastern Trimble, Carroll, and to Henry, and then down into Green that we're watching as well. We've got, of course, complete updates coming up starting at 3 o'clock on Wave News at 3. We're going to go through all this, and we're going to walk you through it through all of our newscasts this afternoon and evening. We'll see how the trends are as we evolve through here. If you have any damage report, you can, of course, notify your emergency manager, or you can take pictures and video and send it to the Wave Weather app. We will then send that to the emergency managers and, of course, to all the viewers downstream of where you're at, too, to give them a big heads up. Thanks to Ryan Hope. Thanks to Kevin Harnett. I will see you guys coming up with our full report starting on Wave News at 3 and 25 minutes. Nice.